One of the things that's always fascinated me about looking at our educational system is that we have an economy that is based on capitalism. We have an educational system that is based on socialism. If you stop and think of how our educational system works, and if this phrase sounds familiar to you, it probably should, it is from each according to his ability to each according to his need. And that, unfortunately, is an educational system that is incongruous in a capitalistic society, where our economy is based upon not from each according to his ability to each according to his need, but in fact, each individual being allowed to find their own place in the world and make their own headway. And that indeed is the strength of capitalism, that we do not tell people what to do with their lives, we give them the opportunity to find for themselves what they can do best, and therefore are more likely to be the better contributors to our society, the better contributors to our economy, and have in fact allowed us to be the most powerful technological nation in the world. I suggest that that is a place that we may not be holding for much longer. And one of the issues, I think, that we have to deal with educationally is how do we maintain our hegemony in technological prowess? And that is not going to be answered by teaching math and science. That is going to be answered by a radically new approach to teaching generally. If we apply the fundamentals of capitalism to the educational process, what does it demand? What changes does that in and of itself imply? The one change is that in a capitalistic society, not only do individuals have the freedom to choose what they want to do with their lives, but presumably they have been prepared by experience and education to be able to make a valid choice with regard to what they should do. It is not a random choice. They decided to go to business school. They decided to go to law school. They decided to go to medical school. They decided to be a technician. They decided to be a mechanic. Whatever those decisions were the result of a whole series of educational experiences, both in and out of the formal education system, that prepared them to have some point of view as to what is best for them or most likely to bring them to success. If you take a look at some of the statistics in that video you just saw, where it says that the average individual in their lives today going forward, bearing in mind that was 2006, they will have 10 to 14 jobs before they are 35 years old. We can agree or disagree as to whether that is a good thing. I suggest to you that it is not. I suggest to you that that is an example of the failure of our system to adequately prepare individuals to know what they should be doing with their lives and therefore be able to focus on it in a way that does not require them to have 10 to 14 jobs by the time they're 35 years old. How do we do that? One of the things that, in effect, brings a spirit of capitalism to a socialistic process is assessment education. What do I mean by assessment education? No child going into school during the first 6 years, certainly, of that educational experience has been told, or indeed has any way to learn unless they choose to find out on their own and independent of the school system, what it is that they are best qualified to do. Stop and think. You have a child who is being treated like every other child, except those of us who have children know that no two are alike, no two have the same capacities, no two have the same abilities, no two have the same talents, no two have the same skills, no two have the same wherewithal to do with their lives what is most likely to be the path for their success. And if we as a society commit ourselves to their success, we as a society will be successful. Instead, we take the position that all children should be taught the same. That is not to say that they have to take the same courses, but they have to take the same core curriculum. And having taken the same core curriculum, they then can go on and take some electives that they might be interested in. And yet they are even taking those electives in a vacuum in terms of knowing not suspecting, because we all suspect what we might be good at or not good at. But we certainly don't know, and not at that age to be sure, those qualities that we bring to the workforce that are most likely to be paths to success. Manual dexterity. Does anyone know a gauge for manual dexterity? I suggest to you that if there is one, I haven't heard about it, and I certainly know that there has been no attempt to gauge manual dexterity among children. And yet manual dexterity is the difference between a brain surgeon and a car mechanic. Because if you take a car mechanic and say to him, do you have the manual dexterity to be a brain surgeon? The answer, more often than not, will be no. And yet, if that brain surgeon decided that he wanted to be a car mechanic because he did not think that he had the manual dexterity to be a brain surgeon, even though that's what he wanted to be, then we would have a car mechanic who could have been a brain surgeon when we need brain surgeons at least as much, if not more, than we need car mechanics.